Hello, guys. We are live on YouTube. Okay, let me know if you can't hear me. And I'm really excited to be here. We're going to talk about how to heal and thrive after a toxic relationship or narcissistic abuse because I post a lot about relationships and the psychology and neuroscience behind rewiring your brain, reprogramming yourself and your nervous system to thrive in every area of your life. And that includes your relationships because the quality of our relationships is directly correlated to the quality of our life. So, I make that content so you could have the awareness of what's going on if you're in a relationship that's not serving you, and then you can use that awareness to build a better life. But I don't want you guys to get stuck in this, like, I hate them. I mean, there is the anger phase, and I talk about the anger phase and why it's important, but we want to use anger as a momentum to like jettison ourselves to a better and higher dimension of being. And I would hate if any of you guys got stuck in the anger or resentment phase. And then because that could become part of your personality, like Joe Dispenza talks about, your personal reality can become your personality. So we want those emotions, especially if they're negative emotions, to just be energy in motion. And we're removing them from the nervous system, especially if they've been stored in the body for a long time. And healing, because also we don't want to give anyone the power to make us resentful. Usually, toxic people, especially narcissists, they like us suffering. And we know that in the devaluation phase and the different phases of the relationship. And then as soon as you start to move on, what do? They start hoovering and then they come back, usually with all the promises that they were promising or the things that they were doing in the love bombing phase to hook you right back in. Because, on another level, you have a biochemical addiction that was created by these toxic people, and your nervous system is still looking for that dopamine hit and that oxytocin hit from the false sense of love and bonding that person created with you. So we are moving out of that, especially like this time of year. I tell my clients and students, okay, it's like this is the spring. Let's spring clean your life. Let's get it all out. Let's whatever needs to be just left behind because spring is about renewal. So let's do it. Okay. Like maybe the first part of the year was rough, but let's do a little spring cleaning right now. And this is a great way to do it. And a lot of healing is about a perspective shift. Your mindset needs to shift. And like a really good, healthy mindset shift can really, it can collapse time. It can make things happen a lot faster. And, sometimes a coach or watching my videos, anything like that can really help. But we want to create a different, because right now you could be in a very victim mindset. And you could be like, I'm just so angry and so resentful. And we're going to talk more about that because that anger and resentment is also, and really often, anger and resentment we have towards ourselves for maybe tolerating behavior. And that's okay. Like we need to go through that phase, but we also need to forgive ourselves and take our power back instead of constantly giving it to these circumstances. Because if we keep doing that and we stay in that resentment, we're going to recreate it. We're going to find like unconsciously or subconsciously, we're going to attract someone else and recreate that again and again. So you want to move out of that phase so we could be in higher and better states of consciousness and attract better things into our life. And this isn't just for relationships. So these can be healing and thriving after, if you had a bad work environment, our emotional baggage, things from childhood and family dynamics that we have are often mirrored in our work environment. So, and I'm talking about unhealed stuff. So, we want to make sure that we bring all these things to consciousness that we want to clear out if we notice that we're having toxic patterns in any area of our life. So, I have some notes here that I'll be referring to. But like I said in my last video, I was getting concerned because at the end of the day, whether you can see it or not, just trust me, I promise you, that toxic relationship, that pain, any type of pain or suffering that we go through It is for our highest and best good. It's to bring something to consciousness, something to awareness that is not serving us so it doesn't turn into disease or we don't keep repeating the pattern and we could be a higher and better version of ourselves. So, if we can know that this is a catalyst, especially narcissists, they can be huge energy catalysts or any type of toxic relationships. They could be tremendous energy catalysts to get us to the next level of our life in any area of your life. I mean, you've had a breakup and lost the weight and blah, 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 and done the things. And that was a good energy catalyst. And we want to keep that going. And so, one of the questions I got actually from someone that follows me on TikTok from the UK, and I'm going to start doing lives at different times of that would be night for me. So, you guys in the UK and Europe have, can join in real time. But she said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on ways to disconnect from the narcissist, ways to start genuinely ignoring them until I no longer give a damn. It would be great to get some advice. So, yes, and I refer to this as the unbothered state. You want to get to a point, or, you at one point, we go from shame and guilt, depression. That anger phase is where we could really start to get some things moving. And then after that anger phase, you reach a courage phase. I talk about this in the book. You could probably see it here, Letting Go. David R. Hawkins has the emotional scale, and that's what I'm referring to. So it goes from, and you could Google that, David R. Hawkins in Letting Go. I think it's in all of his books, but the emotional scale. And so shame, guilt, depression, anxiety, anger. And that's where we could get, because anger has a lot of energy to it. So, and energy can't be created or destroyed. So we want to transmute that energy into courage and more action. And and then eventually you get to a place that's kind of neutral where you're all of a sudden just like, that doesn't bother me anymore. And when the narcissist tries to hoover again, you're like, no. That version of me that would have given you a second chance or texted, it's just gone. And I'm not even angry about it, or I'm just so neutral in what I call the unbothered phase. That's where I want you guys to be, where you're so unbothered, you're so focused on yourself and creating the highest and best life for yourself that it's like, I don't even have time to give energy to things like this that aren't serving me. It doesn't make any sense. So that is where I want you to get. And when you implement the tools, these neurological reprogramming tools, which is based on repetition, most things in life are based on repetition. It's kind of like the pattern of the universe. We need repetition to make things grow in a positive way. Otherwise, we'll stay stagnant or stale or die. So we want good repetition. We want to give repetition in life to things that serve us. So, the first thing that I want you to do is this mindset shift of like, okay, even if I can't see it now, I'm going to trust that this is for my highest and best good, and that something really good is going to come out of this. Because, like someone else commented, well, I just wasted 6 months of my life, and it's like, no, you didn't. Those 6 months taught you something. They taught you what you actually want, what you really don't want, and what you need and deserve. And maybe sometimes when we are, just kind of like, maybe I will call it like floating by, or not, we're not really thinking about that. It's kind of like, okay, well, I'll just settle for this, or I don't really like that, but I'll let that slide. But relationships like this really give you an opportunity to be like, okay, whoa, no, no, no. These are my standards. These are my boundaries. And I'm going to become the person, and I'm going to radiate that out, because that's my new belief system, that I only allow people in my space, and I only attract people that treat me this way, that see me this way, that support my life in this way, that contribute positively to my life. I talk so much about having people, places, things, habits, anything you consume media wise that positively contribute to your life. And, sometimes that can be watching something silly on TV and laughing. If you're just numbing out all the time with TV, that's one thing. But yeah, even like comedy, we need to laugh. That is benefiting your life in some way. So we want to always have things that are benefiting our life. And so making that mindset shift, like, okay, something good came out of this. What did I learn from this relationship? Write that down. That is a tool that I'm going to give you guys right now. What did I learn? And writing things down, especially by hand, you create neural pathways in a way that you wouldn't if you were just thinking about it, right? And if you're working with a coach or a therapist or someone, definitely talk about it. But I still encourage my clients, write it down and then we'll talk about it. That really, really unearths things and helps really accelerate the growth process. So what did you learn from this relationship? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about relationships? What did you really create an awareness around what you want, need, and deserve in relationships? Or if this is about work, in your work environment. I think sometimes, especially dealing with this a lot, like people settle because they're afraid, like, well, I have to work, so I'll just settle for. No, the world is so abundant. There are plenty of people that will treat you the way you want to be treated in a relationship, and there is a perfect job for you, whatever that is, whatever that work-life balance looks like. It is all there for you. So we are not settling. And that goes into the next thing. We're going to start to shift our self-concept. So you're not someone that settles anymore. You're not someone that accepts unacceptable behavior. And maybe you did in the past, and you can't forgive yourself for that. Like, I did that in the past. Guess what, babe? The past is over. It's done. We don't need to fixate on it. We don't need to think about it. We don't need to punish ourselves for it. And some of us, and I had this addiction, so I understand an addiction to guilt and shame. Like my brain would just find things to be guilt, like have guilt and shame over. Once I would reach a new plateau, or I wouldn't do that. I'm like, oh, I don't do that anymore. It's like, well, you did though, and maybe if you didn't, then you'd be this far in life. The past is over, and I really want you to commit to that. The past is over. The last 5 minutes, they're over. It's over. You're always like, we want to be in the present moment. If you're a fan of Eckhart Tolle, you know this. Like everything is created in the present moment. All you have is the now. So live in it. Okay, where if you live in the past, you're going to create depression. If you're constantly worried about the future, that creates anxiety. Both of those are malignant states. They're not good for your nervous system. So you get to decide, and it really is a decision. And it takes like you constantly make that decision until your autopilot is I'm living in the present and I'm at peace. But it takes a while. So it's like, nope, nope, I'm deciding to be in the present moment. Nope, I'm out of my present moment. Let me get back into my body. Let me breathe. Breathing is a wonderful way to put yourself in the present moment. I just did a post about like a technique, like a little 60-second visualization for getting a better night's sleep. And what that little post did, it was bringing yourself into the present moment using your breath. So even if you just need to take a deep breath and like focus all of your awareness and attention on the sound of your breath, and how it's moving through your body, that will do so much to lower your cortisol levels and bring you back into the present moment. So yes, going back to our self-concept, and then elaborate on that. That should be fun. Okay, my new self-concept is I work out every day. That's a big one for my clients because a lot of times in toxic relationships, especially with narcissists, they have you compromise yourself. So they like sleep deprive you and get you to do things that don't feel good. So it's like you get out of shape and you're not exercising because if you do, I've had this personally, in my dating history where I work out every day. I always have. And then this guy was like, "Oh, you're selfish. You're a fucking selfish bitch for working out." And I have, and that was something, and I'm glad that I was able to experience that lesson in real time. It makes me really good at helping my clients get through that. But that is a real thing. Like anything that you're into, if you're into journaling or any kind of a creative thing, the narcissist will be like, that is stupid. So you getting back to yourself. So I'm a person that works out every day. I journal. I have this creative endeavor that I like, and I put a lot of energy into it. So, and that makes me feel good. And it doesn't matter if it's lucrative, if it's like, and I'm just saying it because like narcissists will do that. They'll be like, oh, no one cares about that. You care about it, and that's why it's important. So bringing that back into your self-concept, and in that way, we're going to call all our power back. So a really important part of creating your new self-concept is to call all of your power back. So it's kind of what you decide is like, I'm not giving any of my energy or power to this toxic person, this work situation that wasn't anyone that thinks of me, or I'm thinking like I'm worried about their thinking a certain thing. No, we're letting all of that go, and we're bringing all of our attention to ourselves. Remember, like all that attention you gave to that toxic relationship, and all of the or even at work, like you just overextended yourself and you're going to give all of that energy to yourself and create this new self-concept. And so really write down what does that look like right now? And let's see. And then the narcissist, and again, this narcissist, this is how they can help you transmute that energy so you can stay in victimhood. And I'm not saying like I want you to have your time where you kick and scream and get upset, but then we move on. This is why I don't like channels or content that just talks about the narcissist and all the bad things that they did to you. Get an awareness of that. I do every video I have is we'll talk like just so you have the awareness and then goes into solution mode. So also be careful if you are in group chats or drawn to channels or content that is just talking about the problem. We don't want that. You want to be aware of the problem. You want to be aware if there's abuse going on. And then we go into solution mode. Then we get you out of that. Then we get you to another state of consciousness, a higher state of consciousness and vibration and energy, because that's like guilt, shame, anger, drama, all the things. And we want you in peace, joy, creativity, real love, not the bullshit love that the narcissist was trying to like hook you with. That was all a lie. Real love. And also speaking of that, I'll digress a little bit because when the during the love bombing phase, we have what they do is they create whatever your fantasy is, whatever it is that you want, they will create that. The overt narcissist will do it a little bit like, oh, and it's usually like, oh my God, I've never met anyone like you. You're the one, da da da, and all this stuff. And then it'll turn. And then a lot of times covert narcissists are very generous, which is tricky because I always say that, like, especially like if you're a woman or um, the feminine energy in a relationship, you should like a man wants to earn you, like wants to yeah, like earn you. Like that's what testosterone and vasopressin does. Like men value things that they have to earn. And so but a lot of times it's like over the top with like gifts and it's just way too much. There's not like it's not paced at all. It's just a lot at once. And there's part of us that gets addicted to that because it's kind of like, oh my God, you're making me feel so special. And maybe we have some childhood trauma around not feeling worthy, around not feeling special, around being discarded. So it's like this person is filling that void, which no one can really do, which is why this never works. Um, but they temporarily do, and your nervous system and your brain literally gets addicted to it. You started getting addicted to this dopamine and oxytocin hormones. And when they go into the devaluation phase where the cortisol hits, it's like very shocking. And then you're trying to get that, like a heroin addict, you're trying to get that high again that you got from the love bombing phase. But they know, another comment I got, I might have written it down, but it was like, um, anyway, I'll paraphrase it. The comment was that they promised me the world and all of these things, and we were picking out rings. And then all of a sudden, it was probably because that person was being real, like, okay, let's have some conflict resolution or just whatever, some real reality testing. But they said all of a sudden it was like, over. The relationship was over. She's blindsided. And then that narcissist already had another supply and then got engaged to that one like a couple weeks later or something ridiculous. So, and narcissists do this. They have supply. This is why they always cheat. They don't have, they choose to not have the um, emotional availability and capacity to experience real intimacy because that is too threatening to them. What if they get dumped or rejected in any type of way? It's called narcissistic annihilation. So that means they'll literally feel like they're going to die and they cannot handle rejection. So they always have people on the back burner. And I don't care what they say, like they always have supply that's giving them the attention and validation, and they will have like a full-on other relationship with that person while they're with you. Whether you're married, dating, doesn't matter. So, so what I say that to all say that that relationship was never really real, but they were creating like whatever you want. Oh yes, I'll get married. I'll have or whatever you want this. Like I can, especially if they have money and they're willing to do. Oh yeah, like let me do. So just know, and when when you get more awareness around this, you can also feel it in your nervous system, like something feels off, even though all these compliments and love bombing feel good a little bit. It's like you don't even know me. So how do you know that you want to marry me or that I'm so amazing or all of these things? So it's kind of, having the awareness. And when we take care of our own childhood trauma, when we learn to love ourselves, which is like a journey, right? I have clients that are like, I don't see how I need someone else to have that feeling. But I'm telling you, you can get to a point where you have that feeling for yourself, where you love your own company so much that it just is like, okay, anything else is just like sprinkles on top, like a little cherry on top. And that's where we want to get. And that's what's going to happen with your self-concept. Um, but, a lot of the times, like the pain that we go through is for to wake us up. Like we pay attention to pain. We don't like it. It's uncomfortable. And sometimes it's easier than a slow pain. There's pain in being in your comfort zone. It's like irritating. You get grossed out with yourself, you get judgmental. But if something painful happens, like all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I have cancer, it's like, oh shit, I got to get healthy. And so it's the same thing with the narcissist. It's like, I can't do this anymore. And it kind of really jettisons you out, or it can, out of this cycle that you were in. And it brings an awareness again to what you want, need, and deserve. And Joe Dispenza talk, and it can create a growth mindset. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to decide to invest in myself and be the best version of myself. And that momentum continues. It's like, okay, well, after that bad breakup, I went back to school or I got in shape or I decided to do X, Y, and Z for myself and get this new job, whatever it is. And so it created a growth mindset, and hopefully you keep that momentum. And Joe Dispenza talks about this. He's like, sometimes we need pain to get us, moving to fulfill our purpose, to be the highest and best version of ourselves. But his thing is like, why wait? Why wait for everything to come crumbling down? Like it will, like universe, God, whatever your higher power is, will push you along if you don't do it yourself. But it's like, and this is what I do in my work too. It's kind of like with my clients, we're setting goals and intentions every week. I check up on them every day because it's like, what are you doing? Because I would rather be annoying and be like, hey, get out of your comfort. Like, what are we doing today? Just checking on you. Than like something big and dramatic having to happen where that really kicks you out of your comfort. You can have that. Like we respond to pain, but I'm saying after a while, if we just stay in that flow state of growing and growing and growing, it's a better place to be. Yes, will it be uncomfortable? It's uncomfortable to get outside of your comfort zone, but I promise you that it's worth it. I have clients that are, getting outside their comfort zone with creative projects that they have, or doing their side hustle that they want to become their main thing. And it's like all of the things of like, how is this going to happen? How I can't like, am I this yes, you are that person. If you have that desire, it's for you. It was placed in your heart for you, and you are meant to have it. And yes, it'll be uncomfortable, but then it'll be your new normal. And so again, we're thanking this toxic relationship for that. And, I'll give you another personal story. I, like a narcissist I was dating was literally being like, oh, your job is so stupid, you blah, 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 blah. And like, trying to get me to like not work and really putting down what I do. And it made me be like, you know what? Fuck you. I love what I do. And you know what? I'm really fucking good at it. And I think that bothers you. And it allowed me to own it on a different level because I wanted to take my private practice to another level. And at the time, I was like teaching yoga. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like quitting. I'm just going to focus all because I can do this. And I know that I can impact a lot of people. And so it did. You have to decide though, for a while, sometimes we're replaying out childhood trauma. And so this unworthiness of, oh yeah, you're right, like I suck and I'm unworthy. We replay that in our adult relationships until we decide we're not doing that anymore. No, that's not okay. I didn't get that in childhood, and I'm going to provide that for myself now. The love that you're seeking outside of you, you have within you. You just have to access it. And some of you have access like through a higher power that you call God, the universe, source. So access that because that love is always available to you. It's within you and all around you. And that is the love that will heal any childhood trauma. And then after we do that, then we can attract a very healthy relationship instead of trying to fill this unworthiness wound from someone that is just going to flare it up. And even in a healthy relationship, our things that we need to heal will come up. But we want to find someone that is healthy and has a growth mindset so we have a safe container to grow and heal our wounds. That is the difference. With a narcissistic relationship or a toxic person, our wounds are brought to the surface, just like in any relationship, but we're re-traumatizing ourselves and making them even worse sometimes, or exacerbating them. So in a healthy relationship, we get a healthy container with healthy boundaries. And that doesn't mean it's uncomfortable, doesn't mean the person doesn't piss you off sometimes, but there's a healthy container where you can safely heal and talk about things. There's open communication, and honesty with yourself and with the other person. So that is the difference. And we want to do this healing so we can attract that into our lives and attract healthy work environments and attract healthy people and healthy friends. And also, I want to say this about, because another question was about family. Sometimes that means letting family go. A lot of us have this belief and rhetoric that we're told that, oh, you know what? Well, they're family, so you can't do that. Sorry, but, and I know it's hard sometimes. There is a phase of feeling like alone when like this has been your family and you've had to put up with certain abuse. But I'm telling you that you can create your own family through your friends or in any other capacity, but you don't have to put up with you don't have to accept unacceptable behavior from anyone, even your family. And that might mean creating distance with them, having very strong boundaries with them, or also just not speaking to them. And that's okay. You don't get to be abused or treated a certain way just because you were born into a certain family. And a lot of times, a narcissist will do this, like narcissistic parents do this a lot. It's like, well, you know, you're my child. You have to respect me. You have to, no, you don't. I'm telling you right now that you do not, and that your life will get better. And because your life will get better, the narcissistic parent or family member does not like that. Okay, you know the whole analogy with the crabs, and if one tries to escape, they pull it. That's that dynamic. That's that level of consciousness where it's like, we're all going to stay here. And if you heal or rise above or get out, like, I'm going to resent you. I'm going to do everything I can to pull you down. I'll create smear campaigns. I'll talk shit. You might have to just be okay with them talking shit. And especially like narcissists and like family dynamics, people will usually be like, sure. And then, but they know that that person's a narcissist. And it's like, oh, yeah, I'm so shocked that your, son or daughter isn't talking to you anymore. So just, you have to put yourself first. And that's another thing. That's the next thing I want to talk about is like you get to make yourself your number one priority. When you make yourself your number one priority, everything else falls into place. Everything else gets better. So we have to do that. I know some of you were raised, including me, like you're selfish. You're selfish if you do that. You're the main character in your life, and you are also the director. Okay, everyone else is supporting cast, even your children, even like your spouse, even the people that you love the most, they are all like your supporting cast. And so you have to put yourself, if you don't, your nervous system will be fried, you wear yourself thin. You know what that feels like when you're not putting yourself first. But when you do, everything can fall into place and everything gets better. And it actually helps everyone in your life thrive in their own way when you're putting yourself first. Especially if you have like there's codependency in any type of way, or you're being guilt tripped into taking care of someone where they could be taking care of themselves. Or if you have like some narcissists do this thing where it's like, oh my God, everything's chaotic, drop everything. I need you to do this, da 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 da. If you just stop responding to that and is like, no, my boundary is that I don't drop everything for you, and I'm going to keep my commitment. Sorry, you can't keep yours. And I'm going to not respond to this chaos because it creates more of it. And yeah, they might find other enablers, but they're not doing that anymore. And it does shift. If you are married to someone like this or you work with someone like this, things can really shift because especially if they need you, like things can really shift. But you have to be like the ripple effect that goes out instead of being tossed around like in the sea, right? So your energy gets to be the predominant energy of like, no, I'm not doing that. And then if that person, vibrates out of your life, moves away from you, then good, then good. That's wonderful. So yeah, we talked about unmet needs. So we're going to be careful. And a lot of times when we get out of that cycle of the dopamine hit and but they're hoovering and they're trying to get back in, please watch my video on YouTube about when the narcissist tries to come back because that will be very helpful. I go over a lot of tools to use. But the big thing is like I'm going to the person that you fell in love with doesn't really exist. They created this fantasy based on your unmet needs, based on your like whatever you're desperate for, whatever it is. They that's what they create and that person doesn't exist. So going through all the stages of grief with that is really important. And then remembering that like we fell in love with someone that can't give us that. Like it's like going to the hardware store to buy milk. Why don't you try going to Home Depot and then be like, I want to pick up some bread, and where's your bakery section? Where can I get milk? Oh, you can't get that here. But I was told that I could. No, they cannot give that to you. They're making a choice to not give that to you. And that was another one of the questions. What do narcissists know what they're doing? They do know what they're doing. They do. And it's that's why I call it like a lazy defense mechanism. It's like a lazy personality because it's like instead of doing any type of hard work, and a lot of them are aware. I've had clients tell me, they're like, yeah, I do that. I know that, and my wife, like, that's one of the things she wanted me to talk to you about is because I do those defense mechanisms that narcissists do. They know what they're doing. I've debated about whether to put it on my social media, but there's this classic video about a guy that's like a narcissist, like, yeah, I'm a narcissist, and I love bombing and da da da. And now there's like all this more awareness, so it's like a little bit more difficult for me to, lie, and it's scary, you know. And sociopaths know what they're doing too. Sociopaths are, it's like think of it as narcissism on steroids, but they love getting pleasure from other people's pain. And because narcissists they can't take on any responsibility. They can't, anytime they need to take responsibility for their actions, they can't do that. And they don't like feeling pain. So they offload it and it literally brings them pleasure and soothes their nervous system when they project pain onto you because they're choosing not to handle it. And your nervous system gets weaker to be able to handle any type of rejection or any type of difficult thing. That's why their relationships are not real. I had an acquaintance, I'll call it like that, always had these relationships, and he has a lot of money, and he has these relationships with these women that are like, fake. Oh, like, they're just so agreeable. And then he always gets cheated on. And it's kind of like, yeah, because they're being themselves, not, but they know to play the part. And it's like, okay, well, you have a lot of money, so you'll give me things when I'm with you, and I'll just be agreeable. And then they go off and do their own. And then he was, acting like a victim about it. And it's like, you don't allow, and he has a lot of narcissistic defense mechanisms. Let's call it that. It's narcissistically defended. And so I was trying to explain to him that there's no space for someone to really be real and show up. And you could feel that when you're with someone. So you get to be with someone where you can really fully show up. And that doesn't mean like being terrible or anything. I just mean where you could really show up and be the best version of yourself. Because that's what it's about. It's about expanding our consciousness. And we do have the ability to do that in relationships. But with these old relationships, we get to grieve and let them go. I'm going to read some of the comments. Oh, and this is why I wanted to do this live. These people, they are evil and they must be punished. Don't give your power away like that. I know that there is a phase, the anger phase, where you just want revenge. You want to like just tell them everything and you hope that they die or like something bad. I know that's a phase. Let yourself be angry. And when we're angry like this, you're really angry at yourself. Let's see, I always thought, oh no, that's another one. I'll get into that later. But like, let karma, like it always, like just let, and I wrote that, I was like, let them live out their own life. No, like they get away with everything, but they really don't. Karma is a real thing that's actually been scientifically proven. If you really do believe in God and a higher power, universe, you know that the universe is going to do that. And that's another thing. It's like whatever you vibrate out, you get back. So they will get theirs. I just want you to call all of your energy back to you and not think about them. And this leads me to the whole thing, like what we're really upset about and what we're really grieving is that we allowed ourselves to be treated like that. And we allowed ourselves to be like they were gaslighting us for sure and manipulating us and love bombing us. But then after a while, you start to gaslight yourself. So their programs are running on autopilot within your brain, and there's guilt and shame around that. I want you to grieve that. I want you to give yourself a hug and tell yourself that that's okay and that you were doing the best that you could at the time. And that phase, again, the past is in the past and we're going to leave it there. So even when they hoover and start to come back, we're going to be so unbothered that we don't care. And we're going to love ourselves so much that we're just not even at a place anymore where we give people like that attention. That's where I want you to be. That's how we move past the anger and towards them and then towards yourself. Okay? I don't want you to stay in that state. When I read, and this is like a lot of these comments are from TikTok, and it's like I'm like, I don't want you to stay angry like that. That's so disempowering. Have your anger, but move past it. And then the other one, it was about, on my video about why narcissists cheat, which has nothing to do with you. They cheat because they need supply, a never-ending source of supply and attention and validation. And also it's to make you suffer, which is like a form of supply, but it has nothing to do with you. And this person wrote, I always thought that cheating was my fault until I watched your videos. Yes, it's not your fault. And a lot of you guys might have childhood trauma around like an abusive parent or caretaker making everything your fault. You're the scapegoat if you're the scapegoat child. Um, or if you were a parentified child and you took on the responsibility of a parent at an inappropriate age or at any age as a child or teenager. That's not your responsibility. You're not supposed to be parenting when you're a child or teenager. You're supposed to be going through regular developmental stages. But if you were, you have this overinflated sense of responsibility that could lead to, like, in your adult life, you can attract people that will make you feel really bad or can gaslight you and all the things that toxic people in narcissistic relationships do. So it is not your fault, right? We want to take responsibility for our lives, but you're never responsible for someone else's cheating or, someone else's actions. Um, and oh, I went over that. If you're angry, you're really angry at yourself. And like holding someone in such a terrible light, in a way, you're holding yourself in that light. Like if you keep yourself like, I hate and this goes for anything, like people that are like I see this a lot with vegans. Like they're just so angry at people. Like, what are you really angry at? It's not that. Like, stop. Stop like giving so much negative and like really literally emitting from your body so much anger because you're holding yourself in that place and you're angry at yourself for something. So notice that you're doing that and let that go. Um, and let's see, another question. How do I stop the cycle of attracting narcissists? I feel damaged, like damaged goods from childhood trauma. So everything I just talked about in this video, watch my other videos. I also have a course on healing from narcissistic abuse, which goes over, I mean, it's literally like a library of every neurological reprogramming technique and the psychology behind things, like all the shadow work. Shadow work is really good. Um, I recommend doing shadow work with at least one other person or a therapist, but you can do it by yourself. It's just shadow work brings up the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we have guilt and shame around that we don't want to talk about. And so sometimes it's good to like when I do shadow work with clients, it's usually about some type of prejudice they have that they don't want to admit, some type of repulsion that they have with other people, but they have within themselves. So that's where the shadow, and it gets kind of icky. It's like, oh my God, oh, really? Do I have that? And it's like, yeah, you do, but we bring the shadow into the light to heal it. I'll give you an example from my life. I am like was getting so, and like your triggers are your teachers. So that's where you could find the shadow is like, what is triggering you? And, you get to a state where not much triggers you, and that feels really good. So I'm getting triggered by this person that from the past, and I'm like, why are you back in my life? Like, ugh. And like, she wants this thing that she gave me. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, really? Okay. Like, leave me alone. And then she was like, no, seriously. And I'm like, oh my God, this is pathetic that you want this thing back, but okay. And yeah, there's just a lot of things. I'm trying to stay vague about it, but I'm like, why am I getting triggered about this? One, it was disrespecting my time. Like, I don't have time to like do this whole, and I don't like when people do that because it makes me feel like you don't respect me. And I have things around, it was just a level of unworthiness, and I'm very like careful with other people's time, and it's part of what I do for a living, right? And then the other thing was, and the deeper thing that was really triggering me more than the time thing is like her life is my nightmare. And I I think I've had fears around my life and done like so much hypervigilance to like go in the opposite direction that I didn't want to be reminded of that. And it's like I could have ended up like that. And by the grace of whatever, and whatever. And like and also the work that I've done, I didn't end up like that. But that was like surprising. It's like, wow, I still have fear around that. I still have fear around ending up like that. So, and I got to look at that. So the shadow work, it's like a little bit icky. It's like, oh, it's like, okay, that's cringy. But if you're in a safe place, if you could be compassionate with yourself, if you're doing it by yourself, and then, or with a coach or therapist that is compassionate and knows how to do shadow work, highly recommend. That will really clear up things very quickly. It will, again, it's another thing that like collapses time. It's like, whew, okay, now I could let that go. Um, if this is about dating, taking time off of dating and dating yourself, I know it sounds so cliche, but you get to love yourself. No one will love you until you love yourself. Like you have to really own that, vibrate that, and then it could be something that you actually attract into your life. And I could do a whole other video about that. Let me know if you want that. And then family, what's called family systems or inner child work. So we have these different parts of ourselves. We have the inner child, we have the inner teenager, we have the inner 20-year-old, depending on how old you are. Like we have all these phases, right? So if you're getting like so is something because there's another term called if it's hysterical, it's historical. So if you're getting triggered by something, the hysterical part, it's historical. So is your inner 6-year-old triggered? Were you abandoned in some way by this person? Or is your inner teenager feeling triggered because you can't express your individuality at work through this project? What is it like? What? So it's worth looking at like who inside me is getting triggered right now? Can I talk to them and tell them that you're loved and respected and you are seen and heard, whatever the thing is. But look up family systems work. And that's other something I could do a video about if you guys like. And there's a program called ACA that I'm a big fan of, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families, that it does a lot of inner child work stuff, a lot of family systems work. It is like a 12-step based program, but I talk about it all the time because it's one of the best things I've ever done. And again, going back to shifting your self-concept. So again, I'm gonna always repeat that. What is your new self-concept? What are your new standards? What are your new boundaries? Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. They let in the good things and they keep out things that don't serve you. So remember that. It's not like because the narcissist will guilt trip you into being like, oh, well, you're not da da da, and like, okay, your boundaries. No, your boundaries are not walls, they're doors that only let the health. It's like a good, healthy filter. And then okay, and then on the video that I did about why narcissists come back, someone asked me, how many times will they come back? As many times as you let them. That's the truth. As many times as you let them. So you get to be real with yourself. Are you allowing that behavior? Even thinking about them too much, they can, everything's energy, so they can sense that. Um, Narcissists and toxic people are very um, intuitive. So, and what are you getting out of it when you let them back? Even responding to that text in any capacity, what are you getting out of it? You know? And no shade, no shame, nothing, no judgment. I've done that, and I mean, it's usually to berate them and then be like blocked, but And, if that creates a certain sense of closure for you, that's fine. But you have to get to a point where it's done, it's finito. You are done even associating with people like that because your new self-concept is, I don't associate, I don't talk to people like that, I don't attract people like that. Those days are over. They're over. So yeah, they'll come back as many times as you want, as many times as you allow. So are you gonna allow that anymore? And the last question is, do narcissists fully realize what they're doing? Yes. Like I mentioned before, they do. And they're literally, you know, the common vernaculars, they get off on it, but they literally, their nervous system is literally soothed by it. They're literally happy when this happens. One of my clients that has a narcissistic mom, she's like, I was watching her in real time, like kind of like stir the pot and create this drama, and she looked happy. And I go, yeah. And it wasn't a fun thing to realize that it's like, oh, my mom who's like old and like, is like doing these things like a child and is literally getting so much pleasure out of other people's pain. Yeah. So they do know what they're doing. And please remember that. Like, there's no need to over explain to them, and just in general, you don't need to, um, especially with dating. Like, if you have to tell someone how to treat you again and again, where you're doing these lectures and paragraphs and all this stuff, no, no, no. I mean, you want the safe container where you can talk about your needs and like grow as in a relationship and as a person and as a couple, but not where it's like all like where it's just so much strain and so much strife, and you're always feeling like you have to explain why you need to be treated well. And I talk about this, and I need to make a video on the spiritual narcissist because it's like they're a form of covert narcissist. But I went on a few dates with this spiritual narcissist one time, and I was just like, I'm not talking to you anymore. And he was like, oh, trying to, and I'm like, because you're very disrespectful. And he's like, I'm hearing that I'm not available to treat you and I was like, yes, bitch, with respect. Yeah, you're not available for that. So stop trying to make it like this other thing, you know? It is what it is in that sense. Like, just let it be. This is where that phase of grief called acceptance comes in. We just accept when people show you who they are, we believe them, and then we move on. Even if we had high hopes for something, it's okay. You can let it go. I'll be there for you. I'll support you. I'll help you grieve. Okay, before I end this live, I'm just checking to see if anyone has any more questions, but I don't see any more questions. So thank you for joining me on this live. Let me know if there's any other things that you want me to make videos about. Again, like I am focused, I'm very solution based and solution focused. So I'm here to help you with that. I want you to be the highest and best version of yourself. You came here to live out your dreams, whatever they are. They're your dreams. They're not impossible. I want you to thrive in every area of your life, your health, wealth, relationships, career, your spirituality. So you're closer to your whatever it is. And also spirituality for me is like being able to manifest and create what you like, what you want in life instantaneously as soon as you want it. Okay? So that's what I'm here for. So if you have any other questions about that, and again, if this is something that is a thing for you, with toxic relationships and these toxic cycles at work or any area of your life, relationships, take my course. It's called Healing from Toxic Relationships and Narcissistic Abuse. In the bio, in everything, in YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. So if you're here on YouTube, it's just in my bio. It's right there. There's a link that shows all my programs and all my content and everything. Let me know if you have any questions. The best way to ask me things is to DM me on Instagram or TikTok. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys very soon. I'm going to do another live very soon. I like connecting with you guys like this. All right. Good night.